This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
21 questions here on KC Sports Network, brought to you by Braden's Hope. I am Kent Swanson. I'm here with my pal, Ryan Scott Hall. Ryan, I can't tell you how good it was to catch up with you a little bit before this. I always enjoy getting to talk to you, my friend. I hope the summer is treating you well.
You know, it's been going great. And always a thrill to get to spend time with you. You're one of the nicest people that I've ever been around, Kent. And so, you know, all the complimentary things that you have to say. I mean, I feel like I would be crazy to turn down the opportunity to hang out with you for an hour.
I talk about this, like, I think most of every time that, you know, it's like you and me or me and Dirk when we do one of these 21 questions, but like, it's so fun that you guys get to be part of KCSN, and we're just like so happy just because, like, you know, I think I've told the story, like, you guys are the OG Chiefs podcast, man. Like, you guys have been, you know, you just completed what, season 12?
Yeah. 12 years. It's kind of crazy. Like, you know, there are parts of me at times where it's like, man, I feel like we were almost too early. A lot of the things that we tried to do in order to like grow the show or generate revenue or whatnot, like podcasts just weren't what they've become. And seeing some of the shows that have popped up around us and the way that the space has grown and how many people over the years have said something to Dirk or I, whether it's online or even in person, being recognized by people and being like, dude, if it wasn't for you guys, like, I wouldn't be doing this right now. That's a really cool thing to hear. So as much as, you know, it would have been great for both of us to quit our jobs and, you know, be podcasters full time or whatever. Honestly, just being able to hear that we've inspired a lot of people to try it and be willing to have fun with something that is new and weird for a lot of folks is really cool. It's a cool thing.
Space has definitely changed a lot. Like, I just remember, like, I think it was like my first year at AP. You guys had me on, and I went over to like your house, and like you had like a literal like recorder,
like a digital recorder.
You just kind of like turned it on, and I think you had like the intro playing from the computer, recording into the recorder, and there was just like this. I think the thing that like people like, you know, have always liked about you guys is just like you just have that authenticity, and like that always like kind of just, that was just like a common thread, right? Like you were just like, you guys still are, you're just like an extremely authentic pair, and like that's it's been so cool to see you guys like come over onto this platform where obviously things are a little bit different than what, you know, you guys, you know, how things started for you guys. You know, technology's changed a little bit. You're sitting here like this, and you have to now because like Dirk's out west, and like, you know, but it's just, I don't know, it's cool. The authenticity and the thoughtfulness that you guys kind of always operate is still there, and I think that's just kind of cool to see.
Well, mostly, you know, we like to do football and friendship and fun. That's what we like to stick to, and it's really crazy. Like, there may be people watching this or listening to this that don't really know me at all and have never listened to Dirk and I, and yet we've been doing a show for 12 years. And the places that it's taken us, whether it's, you know, going to a road game in Nashville or going to the Senior Bowl in Mobile or literally like international travel. We went to South America together and we didn't even know each other really before we started podcasting. Mm-hmm. And all of it really goes back to some of those media members here in Kansas City that were so generous with their time and their expertise. And so we will forever be indebted to the likes of Kent Babb and Sam Mellinger and Nick Wright and Danny Parkins and Carrington Harrison. I mean, just an incredible group of talent that has been in this town. And, you know, we got to spend a little bit of time with Therese. He came on the show a couple times. But he even would be a driving force in conversations for us. Kansas City has been, in a lot of ways, just such a special sports town, particularly when it comes to the Chiefs. And we're all very lucky to be doing this in an era with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Chris Jones and the like. It's the golden age of Chiefs football, and for all of us to be young and energetic and trying to be as creative as we can, and now all pulling in the same direction under that KCSN umbrella. It's a really, really cool time to be a part of all this. And yeah, man, we're going to try to figure out, we've been talking a little bit about like how we can make the show more visual, because historically it was just audio only. You know, we never had YouTube or anything like that. And apart from the last few years using like Zoom or whatever, we never even had to think about that. We could just sit in the same room. But now, like you said, Dirk is out in California and we've had to adapt. And so we really want to try to embrace like the visual aspect of the show more this year, whatever that means. So
I can't wait to find out what that means.
Yeah, right.
Especially with Dirk involved.
Of course.
This is 21 Questions, though. We answered the questions from KCSN's Discord. Thank you all so much for asking questions today. If you want to ask questions, subscribe to KCSN Substack. Get you access to a really fun community of people hanging out on Discord. Lots of fun, different channels for you to variety of discussions that happen out there. But make sure you check that out. First question from Craig is great. Is Craig okay? Yes, I can confirm Craig is okay. And even though he's gone, and even though, I'm going to continue to just, the bit for me, Ryan, is like anytime Craig would be gone from the show, I would just reassure everyone that he's doing all right. I don't know why I felt compelled to do that, but I don't know, maybe just because he's just such an important part of all of our lives. But yeah, Craig's doing wonderful. Craig's golfing now. Oh. And yes, and we that has started a little bit. He's got some golfing events he needs to be part of soon. So he's starting to work on that, and I'm so giddy about it. The funny thing is he started a separate DM, group DM, but it just excluded Maddie. Because Maddie is the only one that doesn't care about it. But I told him he should just continue to make him mad. Anyways, but yeah, he's doing great. Lee87 asks, who is the greatest golfer at KCN and why is it Kent? It's not me. Ryan, if you had to guess who the best golfer at KCSN is, do you have any inkling at who you think might be the best golfer?
I mean, I was instantly going to gravitate toward you because you're the one that talks about golf a lot. I mean, I guess it could potentially be BJ. I don't know. If we're talking Top Golf, I feel pretty good at Top Golf. But you put me on an actual golf course and it's over. No, not me.
Can you smoke a ball pretty good? Can you sag it a little bit?
I have discovered that at Top Golf, I am a lot better than I ever would have given myself credit for. But that's largely based on, so every year we take our 8th graders to Top Golf on a field trip. And it's really just like an opportunity to get all my frustrations out on the teenagers that have treated me, however, throughout the year. And I'm like, all right, I can't wait to make you guys look bad at sports. So whether it's like bowling or Top Golf or things like that, those little things, those are fun opportunities for me. But I feel like even though I'm playing against like a lot of teenagers that don't even know how to hold a club, I'm pretty much like scoring points every time I hit the ball. And that's what you're supposed to do at Top Golf. So I feel good about
it. The answer is BJ. BJ is a pretty good golfer. I love golf. I don't really claim to be good. I just really appreciate what golf has kind of provided me as an outlet, which I've very much needed since COVID. I kind of got into golf during COVID, and it's been a very good outlet for me just personally to, see my friends, go, try to play well, all that kind of stuff. I'm getting better, but my pursuits for golf aren't necessarily as I want to score lower, but it's more just it's just been a good outlet for me to be out in nature, out relaxing. It's one of the few places I feel I can take deep breaths, but I'm getting better. BJ's pretty good though. I think BJ's probably got me by 8 strokes, something like that. He'll go low 80s, I'll go low 90s, high 80s, somewhere along there. So, yeah, he's pretty good. Kyle C asks, what's the perfect month to watch football outdoors? Nothing else matters except for the weather. What month out of the 12 are you picking?
Probably October, I guess. I like football when the stakes are higher, but if you're talking about me going to Arrowhead, October. Usually in September, you'll get a couple of those unseasonably hot days. Usually the first home game or two, you can get cooked out there, man. And so I like when it starts to cool down, but cold weather football is a young man's game, and I am not doing that anymore. We joke sometimes in a group chat that Dirk and I are in about like what would it take for you to go to this type of game? And when it's, 10 degrees and you're literally like having fans being recommended that they have appendages removed because of frostbite, it's like, no, you could buy my playoff ticket, give me $2,000 and a week off from work, and I'm probably still not gonna go because it's just uncomfortable. I want to go out and have a nice time in good weather, and cold football, no, not for me. Not for me anymore.
So I have a few controversial takes here, I think. First off, I do think October is the right answer, though. I do think that is the perfect kind of window. I would lean more September than I do November, though, just because I enjoy. I know it's a little bit hot. I do agree with that. But I got to go to a game last year, and I kind of got to pick which game I wanted to go. I was really excited about that because I hadn't been to Arrowhead. The last time I was at Arrowhead was when Marcus Mariota threw a touchdown to himself. Right before the Mahomes era. It was my first time ever seeing Mahomes play. But I wanted an early season game. I was going to miss the post game, so I wanted an earlier season game, and I wanted as stress-free of a game as I possibly could have. I didn't really want it to be like the Eagles or like the Bills or one of those games. I wasn't really trying to be there for like a super intense game. I took weather into consideration, and I picked. I think the Bears game was early October, late September, early October, somewhere in that range.
4, I want to say.
It was week 4, but I wanted early season, and it was still pretty hot. Yeah, it was still pretty hot, but I'd rather be hot than go to a cold game. But controversial takes, yeah, not a big cold game guy. I'm like a one game. I think I'm a one game a year kind of guy too. I know that might be a little controversial, but like I love Arrowhead. I love going to Arrowhead. I love Chiefs games. Part of my Chiefs game experience mostly entails me being in a more quiet, relaxed, controlled environment with blanket on. I think I'm a one game in person type of person more than I am like I've been a season ticket holder before. I think I like hanging out and watching the game from my couch a lot more, if I'm being honest.
It's gotten to that point. It certainly didn't used to be, and I know Dirk, whether he really feels this way or not, would probably give you a very hard time about this because, you got to be out there as much as possible and you got to shred your vocal cords and leave it all on the field and everything. And while I do have some really fond memories of feeling like you had an impact and you had skin in the game by being in the stands, number one, it's really expensive. Patrick Mahomes has made it such that going to a game, you have to kind of just build in the fact that you're going to spend at least $200. And it's probably going to be a lot more than that, depending on how snooty you are about where your seat is. And it's like a whole day thing, and it's like, so you got to you really have to plan it out. And the Chiefs get like one noon game a year now. And so there's so many of the primetime games where like logistically going to a game on a Monday night, like I have to take the next day off.
Yeah.
I am not going to go to work after a Monday night game, win or lose, because I'm not going to get home until 12:30 and I'm still going to be all amped up until probably 2 or 3 in the morning trying to get to sleep. Things have changed, man. Age definitely changes the way that you approach it, because I can tell you, even 10 years ago, I think I would just be so mad at myself for some of the stuff that I'm saying. But what 3 Super Bowls will do to you?
Yeah.
A decade worth of living.
So I got season tickets in 2012 and 2013. And so like I got, the worst and the best, the start of something great. Yeah. Right. But, it's okay. But I think the 2013 season, I think we had like it might have been 3 straight weeks out of Arrowhead in like November or December. And it was brutal. Like it's just like, it was a lot. Try to do that 3 straight weeks. It was a lot. We're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
Bourbon lovers, the 4th annual bourbon raffle for Hope is now live. For just $25 per ticket, you have the chance to win one of 25 bottles of rare and allocated bourbon. Limited tickets available, so act fast. And here's an exciting bonus. For every $100 you spend on tickets, you'll receive an extra chance to win a full set of Blanton's bourbon. Every ticket purchased helps fund life-saving childhood cancer research, bringing hope to children in their fight against cancer. Don't wait. Ticket sales close on June 17th at 5 p.m. The Facebook Live drawing will be held on June 18th at 5 p.m., and winners will be contacted directly. Visit www.bradenshope.org to purchase your ticket now and make a difference. Cheers to hope. I'm playing in the Braden's Hope golf tournament here on Monday. I cannot wait. I've already bid on a few items. Ryan, have you ever maybe I shouldn't advertise this because I don't want anybody else bid on it. That's okay. It's for kids. Spotted Cow. It's from New Glarus Brewing.
I have heard of this. I discovered around the time I turned 30 that I am allergic to alcohol. Didn't really have a problem drinking in my 20s. But man, I woke up one day and it's like I have half a serving of literally any type of alcohol. It doesn't matter if it's beer or wine or liquor. And it feels like I have the worst hangover that I've ever had in my entire life. I literally can't consume it anymore. I will say though, Blanton's, which you mentioned in that read, phenomenal. I believe that is Sam Mellinger's favorite. But yeah, that is a nice bottle and tough to get sometimes.
Mellinger gets increasingly cooler every time I hear more about it. 2 things. I'm not like a super big drinker. I'm not a big beer drinker at all, but that Spotted Cow is like it's so delicious. So I'm hoping I get in on that. But if I do have a sip of something, it's probably bourbon. And yeah, there's a lot of great selections there. Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond Bourbon. I still very much love that one as well. So I need anytime we're doing something at the distillery, I just tell people you got to come out. You got to come hang out because we just have just incredible time and there's really good tasty drinks and all that kind of good stuff.
I still haven't made me out there, but I tell you what, after seeing all the frogs during the draft, now I really want to go. I've never seen a bullfrog like that in person. And I mean, that's like the low on the totem pole. I'm selling a brewery based on, a distillery based on the frogs that they have living outside of it. But it does look like a really beautiful piece of property. And you guys have always been super complimentary of the time that you have up there.
We have so much fun every time we go. It's so great. Waffles or pancakes, Ryan?
I eat more pancakes than waffles because I know how to make them. I think that technically there's only like a 1 or 2 sort of ingredient difference in a pancake and a waffle. I love them both. Obviously the advantage of waffles is that you get all the little divots in there, and then it just kind of, you get the syrup laying out in the little pools. I like them both, but generally speaking, I say I probably lean pancakes. And usually if I'm having a pancake, I'm having either a blueberry pancake or a pecan pancake, or one of each is really my preferred.
Yeah, there's been some very vicious arguments in some of the group chats. I mean, it's kind of funny that we keep getting asked about group chats, or we keep talking about our group chats today randomly, because that's also a question that's down the road here, but like it just keeps organically popping up. I'll ask it now. Who is the most fun in group chats on KC Sports Network? Also, my favorite group chat is the breaking news team group chat we have, which is like basically everyone from KCSN's on it. And it was like during like free agency and stuff, in case there's breaking news, that's where I'd go to just see who could randomly jump on the breaking news team. That thing is wild. I have my take on who I think the most fun in group chats are. I want to know who you think the most fun in group chats are, though, at KCSN.
So I think that if I'm being technical, it's a toss up. But I lean one way because of how little I typically talk to this person. So technically I would say the toss up is either, my good friend Dirk, who I, speak with fairly regularly, and Tucker, who I don't speak with regularly. And so if I had to actually like lean one way, I'd say Tucker, because I get some of like, not that he isn't authentic when you, watch or listen to him here on the shows that he does, but like that little bit of personality that I don't typically get to interact with, getting to see it in those group chats. I mean, he's a special boy.
I think it's Tucker for me. He is the most unique person ever, and like the places he takes conversations, the things he adds to conversations are sometimes wild and out of left field. He trolls some of us sometimes. He has a standing bit with Tucker, or with Seth in the breaking news team, when we apologize for cursing even when he doesn't curse. It's just, dude's wild, man. I love that kid, and yeah, he's elite vibes. He's an icon, as Kay Adams called him. So yeah. I think he's up there. Arrow wants to know, which of the Chiefs coaches do you think is the best golfer? That's funny. Who do you think?
So,
why?
I don't know, because honestly, I feel like, and this may be a KCSN thing, it might just be a laboratory thing. I think that we have gone too far anti Uncle Dave. I still think that he is one of the more innovative special teams coordinators in the league. I think that he is clearly one of the 2 or 3 most well-respected special teams coaches. And really, like, in the modern era, he can really pull off about a 5-inch, 6-inch inseam very well. Love that. As far as the golfing is concerned, I was just thinking short shorts and swinging a golf club. I don't know. I do, though, remember at times last year thinking, like, can somebody save Dave Tope from himself? Because returning kicks in 2023 or 2024 really felt like a waste of our time and attention. Boy, he got a little frustrating last year, I will say that.
I just think it's funny that you use this opportunity more to just defend Dave Tobe's name than to answer it. Look, I think it's more about like just how he's a fine special teams coordinator. It's not that he's one of the better ones, top 10 probably. I think like it's just the frustration of like how much power and influence he has is on the bottom of the roster, right? Like that kind of stuff I think has always been what's so frustrating. But Andy that's kind of how Andy goes. He says, all right, just, let's let it, you take care of that. Don't make me have to worry about it, and we're going to be good. I think that's kind of the approach he always takes. I think I've heard some rumors that Matt Nagy's a pretty good golfer.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've heard some. I think I've heard some rumors that he's a pretty good golfer. Lee87 asks, "What is the most wild thing you do to celebrate if the Chiefs and Royals both won a championship in the same year?"
The most wild thing that I would do is probably be unmoved by the Royals winning a championship. I like baseball has literally like zero place in my life. I very rarely, if ever, pay any attention to it. It sounds like their pitching is really good this year. I don't know how sustainable that is.
The boys are playing some ball, Ryan. The boys are playing some ball.
Yeah. I like Bobby Witt. He seems like a special guy, and obviously the fact that, he's kind of connected to Patrick is a great thing. If they both won in the same year, I mean, I guess I'd talk my stuff a little bit. I was listening to a podcast the other night, and they were talking about things that were happening in 2015. They were talking about Back to the Future Part 2, and they go to 2015, and it was like, what was memorable about that year, or what would you change, or whatever. And they were listing like who won championships that year, and they said the Royals, and they're like, none of that even really matters. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's an East Coast bias probably. But for me, I would say that maybe if we're talking wild, it would be that I just would be like, oh, cool, the Royals won. That's great. Good for you guys.
I don't think I'd go too wild, man. Like I'm kind of weird, like just how I consume my favorite teams, how I process my favorite teams, and all that stuff, right? Like, I'm very like it's weird. I consider myself to be a pretty energetic person genuinely, but like when I'm watching games, I'm very internalized and just like I said, like the first Chiefs Super Bowl, I didn't enjoy watching it. There was no enjoying of watching the first Super Bowl because emotionally I couldn't handle the gravity of it and how much it meant to me. I didn't eat. I don't eat during the Super Bowl. I don't eat. I don't drink anything. I just kind of sit there and process it as best I can and just stoically sit there the whole time. And so but even like in celebration, that's not really, I don't know. I don't really go out and do stuff, or, maybe I dance in the street a little bit, maybe. I'm not going to do anything too wild though. Baseball's different though. I will say this, like, I think I cried more during the Royals winning the World Series than I think I have in any, and I've cried for both, so don't get me wrong. That World Series was like incredible. Like, it was just like a remarkably emotional thing for someone who, like, look, I've never seen either of my teams win, a championship before the Royals. But the Royals, the history with the Royals had been so much more just downtrodden, even though it hadn't been great for the Chiefs, right? But just different levels of embarrassingly bad for the Royals for most of my life. I cried a ton during that one. So I'll be a sobby mess if the Royals do it again. We'll see.
Baseball's kind of dragged out a little bit too, like getting the 7-game series of it all. There's, having to keep showing up to these games, showing up mentally and emotionally. I could see that being really difficult. I mean, Dirk and I, by the time the Super Bowl was over in 2019, we were a mess. And I mean, he threw up shortly thereafter. We were all super duper sick within a few days of that Super Bowl. It's interesting. You said something in there that I've started to think about a lot. You kind of mentioned like how you internalize things during the game, how you're a little more stoic. And I also know, just, from being friends and listening to the work that you do, that you talk about how like you really kind of incubate yourself from other shows when you are preparing. You don't want to hear what anyone else has to say.
Do you know who taught me that, by the way? Who really kind of helped guide that was Therese.
Interesting.
Yeah, All Juice Team, maybe. Yeah, that was something he kind of instilled in me, and that was like, as we, had some interactions and stuff. That was like a kind of like a sign of respect, anyways. But continue.
I see it both ways, I guess, because I think I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum, especially as time has gone on. The last thing that I want to do as somebody putting together a show is say things that people have heard 15 times already. Sure. And even if they're hearing it from me and it might be packaged slightly differently or whatever, I want to find the things that people aren't talking about. Mm-hmm. I want to find the angle on a situation that people aren't taking. Or after I've heard all of these different takes, I can kind of sift through it and say, you know what, this is actually what sounds right to me. And anymore, when we started, it was like there weren't a lot of competing voices in the space. And now there are so many that it's like, it's not necessarily about standing out and being different very specifically, but like, I do want to try to find how I really do feel by being informed. But I can also see that, like, if I'm listening to all this noise, it's going to start affecting what I think or how I feel. And so I could see the merits of both sides of that. I will say that, like, the game day experience, I'm not very vocal unless there is a big play. And apart from that, I am just kind of leaned back and trying to take it in. And anytime that I'm around people that are like really rowdy, it's like, no, this is not what I want. Dirk and I are very protective of like the space when we would watch, who we would watch with, and that's changed as now we're, half a country apart. But like, yeah, those game days for sure. I am very selective about who I will watch with, and particularly depending on the severity of the game, the stakes of the game.
Yeah, I don't really. Yeah, I like watching with my people, but I'm not, like big watch parties and stuff. I still have fun at them. Don't get me wrong. Like, we do watch parties and stuff at like holiday and stuff. I have a great time. Don't get me wrong. My preferred method, just for my own emotions, tends to be a little bit more internalized and all that stuff. We're gonna take one more break. We'll be back right after this.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
Golf keeps showing up on this show. The group chats kept showing up on this show. Golf keeps showing up on this show today. And as a golfer, for years, I've been hearing PXG say nobody makes golf clubs like we do, period. You know what? They're right. I went in for a fitting and saw for myself. I went in and swung the PXG Black Ops driver. I tell you, it's a total game changer. You no longer have to sacrifice distance for forgiveness. And that has been a huge factor as I have been, working through, getting that driver and going through that process. They lowered the loft on it. They actually shortened the shaft by 1.5 inches and put me in a little bit more customizable shaft to kind of fit my needs as a golfer. So I feel like I have more control when I'm swinging the club. And it's helping me not get, under the ball as much and help, drive the ball more for distance than for height. And it's been awesome. I picked it up this week and it was such a fun day. And I'm so glad I got a chance to do that. PXG made me a believer. They'll do the same for every golfer in Kansas City. Visit pxg.com/21questions to schedule your fitting at PXG. That's on 7517 West 119th Street in Overland Park. Get fitted for any club and you'll get a dozen balls free. That's pxg.com/21questions to schedule your fitting. pxg.com/21questions. Limit 1 dozen golf balls per person. Promotion ends June 30th. Other terms and conditions may apply. See store for details. I'm telling you, it's just funny that golf just keeps showing up in this show. I love it. This is the dream right now for me. Jay Hawkeen asks, love the Nikko hype as much as anyone, but isn't his skill set really redundant with the guys ahead of him? What do you think, Ryan?
Wide receiver is a really interesting spot. I wanted to quibble with you a bit when you talked about the control that Dave Tobe has over like the bottom of the roster, because I started thinking about, well, we kept 7 receivers last year and like one of them plays special teams basically. I think that anytime you start to get attached to an undrafted, like a specific undrafted player, it's kind of a game of chicken on like, how much am I willing to invest my emotions into this guy making the team when by his very nature, like it's going to be an uphill battle. It's going to be an absolute long shot. Nikko, I think, is in some ways, we might say that he's redundant because he's small. And we've got like 7 smalls in that receiver room. But I don't know that the skill set is actually that redundant. I don't see him as a Sky Moore. I don't see him as a Kadarius Toney. I think, if anything, he may be a little more like Richie James, who's no longer on the team, but like just in terms of kind of what he brings to the table. But I've also heard I've heard a couple players talk about the speed that Remigio has. I remember him more as a Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, like pure slot guy that was able to create separation with how clean his routes were. But that's in very limited time from last year. Fun guy to root for. It's ultimately it's going to come down to, do the Chiefs want to take a shot on a guy like Remigio, or do they want to continue to have Sky Moore or Kadarius Toney, like those types of guys on the roster? That's what it's going to come down to, because he's not going to, make the team over Xavier Worthy. They're not gonna cut Hollywood Brown, right? Like it's the bottom of the room that they're looking at. And maybe he would be less likely to make the team than a guy like Justin Ross, simply because of the difference in size and how unique Justin Ross is compared to some of the other guys on the team. But I think he's got as good a shot as any, because to me, apart from the fact that Toney was a first-round pick that they traded a third in order to get, and Sky Moore was a second-round pick, I don't think that either one of them have like a huge leg up on Remigio in terms of the skill or the talent or the ability to execute things in this offense, personally.
Yeah, I think with Kadarius, I think there's a chance that they're building a plan for him offensively still to be part of it, right? Like it just feels like it's not quite ready to give up on him quite yet. With Sky, I think last year, right, 7 receivers was an exception, and maybe not as much special teams value at the bottom of that roster. But I would consider that more exception than like what we've historically seen how this team is operated, with how they make the decisions on the last few pieces of that roster. When you're looking at a team that's probably willing to give up on a Sky Moore potentially, right? Like it doesn't feel like they're going to go out of their way to keep Sky Moore this year if he can't really contribute on special teams. He's not really finding his footing or a role on offense. If it's a player like that, like some of the reason you kept 7 receivers last year has been weeded out a little bit, right? With some of the decisions that you might have to make on some of these guys at some point. I could see, Nikko, from a skill set redundancy perspective. I get what people are saying. He's definitely more of a short to intermediate worker. Even maybe he has shown some more ability down the field, but I do think, where his bread is butter is probably going to be that short to intermediate, and they do have a lot of guys that are capable of doing it. But his role is going to be probably more from a special teams perspective too. Like he's got to provide some special teams value to really make himself more or less a player that they don't want to replace with somebody that doesn't have it. It could be a tiebreaker for him. If he's performing to a same level as a Sky Moore offensively, then maybe they give Nikko Remigio the nod over him, just simply because of, he can do a little bit more as a special teams player. So like, I think there's some redundancy to the skill set. He is on the smaller side, which can matter a little bit, but the full picture of it could give him, a shot. Another receiver question. Craig is Great asks, I was on the Watson as a lock for the 53 train. However, he has a $2.7 million cap hit. Are we overlooking him as a possible cut and bring back option, or a new deal similar to last year to give him more guarantees? What do you think?
I'm not in a position to be able to talk about like how they might tinker with the contract aspect of it. But just in terms of a player that I think is liked and respected, and despite some of the drop issues that he had last year, generally trusted, I have a hard time seeing Justin Watson not be on this team. Mm-hmm. The fact that they brought him in as somebody that we all maybe thought was like a camp body and has ultimately earned some guaranteed money from this team. And, you know, again, kind of a unique body type for them. He's a little taller, he's a little thicker, he's a little tougher. And ultimately, I know that they've added some speed and some guys that ideally have some downfield ability for you. But I mean, Watson was the most effective receiver beyond 20 yards last year. It's not saying much. But I mean, I think that's a guy that is somebody that they can trust to do a lot of the right things, whether that is on the field or in the meeting rooms or in the weight room or whatever. He seems like a culture fit, but also a pretty decent fit in the offense. And if he's your fourth or fifth receiver, I'm not complaining about that at all.
I think he's an absolute stone cold lock for this roster. For multiple things. You talk about being the one receiver that played special teams last year. Between the playoffs and the regular season, he had 550 receiving yards last year. Like, that is not nothing. That's worth $2.7 million right there. So you've got a reliable option, a guy that they trust tremendously, who doesn't necessarily raise the ceiling of the room, but is a reliable player that can be asked to do multiple things, can ask to do his job, to do his job and be relied upon. That's a huge factor. It's a huge value. If you look at who he's competing with too, like, I mean, we'll get into this question here in a second, but if you're looking at who he's competing with on the roster, there's no guys out there that are, clear cut better than him either, by far. Like, we can answer this question. Just DRK, what's your 6-man wide receiver opening day roster that isn't basic? Well, I even if you're not being basic, and I'll get there in a second, but I'll finish answering this Watson question. You're talking Worthy Brown, maybe Rashee Rice, right? Depending on if he's suspended or not. You got Justin Watson, but then you've got Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, Justin Ross, McCole Hardman, Nikko Remigio. All those guys competing for, the 3 spots behind those 3 guys. Man, I don't know. I think Watson's a lock. Now, let's get weird with the 6-man wide receiver room. So the opening day roster that isn't basic. What doesn't look basic to you, Ryan? What do you think?
Well, I pulled up the roster because I'm sure that with a 90-man group right now, they've probably got 12 or more receivers. I mean, look, if I get to pick my 6, and I don't have to think about or worry about the Rashee Rice aspect and, when he's on the field and when he's not, whatever, forget that. If I'm picking 6, your top 3 are obvious with Rashee and Hollywood and Xavier Worthy. Mm-hmm. And to me, the 4th guy of all of the options, the 4th guy is Justin Watson. Mm-hmm. Those are the only 3 players that I'm like, definitively, these are better wide receivers than him. Mm-hmm. So Watson becomes my 4th. Those last 2 spots, man, it's such a grab bag of different looking players. Mm-hmm. I am probably going to keep Remigio just because he's fun for me. I don't know if the Chiefs are going to be willing to go this route, but I'm probably doing Remigio, and then I may even, just because I like change and I like doing things a little bit different, I may give a shot to one of these other guys that have been borderline. Maybe it's time for Cornell Powell to get a shot on the roster this
year. Special teams.
Right? I would not be opposed to Justin Ross. I would not be opposed to a Sky Moore or Kadarius Toney. but I will say pretty definitively, I think I will be frustrated if both Sky and Kadarius make the team this year, because if anything is redundant, it's two guys that I don't trust to make a consistent impact on my offense, taking up roster spots in that receiver room. Like, I don't think either one of them is going to make a truly tangible impact. And so I don't want two guys that I claim are developing players not getting reps and are honestly like not earning my trust. And if I have to choose between the two, I'm probably going to say Sky Moore. I think that Tony is more electric, but Sky Moore seems like generally a better guy that's more trustworthy. And don't get me wrong, they've used the all the right vernacular to talk about Kadarius Toney and how special he is, but that guy has made some really stupid choices. Mm-hmm. He's done a lot of like borderline decisions off the field, and then it seems like it's okay, but like that, you know, where there's smoke, there's fire, man. And I would rather just move on from that because it's not worth it. The juice is not worth the squeeze on Kadarius Toney, and the Chiefs would be the third team to decide that too. Not professionally, but the third team that Tony's been a part of where it's just been a problem.
If you're looking at like a non-basic version of this, if Rashid's on the roster week 1, I think there's 4 locks and there's not a ton of places to get too weird. I think the non-basic version has Nikko Remigio on the roster.
He's probably not going to make the team, but I want him to.
I think he could. And it's just because it just depends on what happens with Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney. The most non-basic is probably Nikko and Justin Ross being on the roster there.
Yeah.
And in your 6 being Xavier, Hollywood, Rashid, Nikko, Justin, and Justin with a Y. You know, like that 6, right? I think that's, and look, McCole Hardman getting thrown back in the mix here. I have a theory. I
completely forgot that they signed McCole. Honestly, McCole's probably going to make the team, right? Probably.
Maybe. We'll see. Here's the thing. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But doesn't he feel like a guy, because he signs in June for league minimum, no guarantees. Does that not feel like a guy you might be able to practice squad? I feel like the league's kind of told you how you feel about him.
I would say if he doesn't make the Chiefs, like does a team go pick him up to put him on their 53? I doubt it.
That's what I wonder. It's like if he's back in Kansas City in a crowded wide receiver competition, coming in late into the season, hasn't been able to find a home. I don't know, man. Maybe that's someone that you can kind of keep as inventory on your practice squad as someone there too. So, Simu 7, what's going to be more painful to watch, the last season of Tamba or the last season of Travis Kelce?
I guess it kind of depends on how you define painful, because I'd have to go back and look, but he was such a warrior that I imagine his last year was, when I say rough, like that you could just see in his body, right? And maybe we'll be able to see that from Travis. He consistently says these things like just, till the wheels fall off type of stuff. And he seems like maybe he is that type of guy. I don't think we're going to see the like 300 or 400 yard season from him that we saw from like a Jason Witten, who was never as athletic as Kelce to begin with. But I think he'll know the right time to walk away. So I guess we'd have to say like harder to watch physically, probably Tamba. Harder to watch emotionally, Travis Kelce. He has somehow found a way to endear himself to this fan base at a level that I don't know many players that will ever be able to do it in my lifetime.
I don't know if we'll ever, this is a compliment to Travis, I don't know if we'll ever fully know that we're in the last season of Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
And I think he knows when it's the right time. He'll play till the wheels fall off. And I think him and Mahomes have such a good rapport and chemistry that it's not going to be a 400 yard season if he does start to tail off, a little bit. I think he'll be able to sustain some level of success and find a role to play. I just don't know if it'll ever, you might start to see him fade out a little bit more and be more, package player kind of type guy. But I don't know if we'll ever fully know that it's the last season of Travis Kelce we're watching, right? So that's kind of just how I don't know. I think it'll be harder to watch Tamba, not that, you could tell. You could just really tell with Tamba. And so, like, with Travis, like, I don't know if we're ever going to completely tell. They'll still be, I think he'll leave with, like, there's a little bit more he could probably still keep playing, but it's just the wheels literally fall off, right? So I don't think it'll be just some drastic, awful decline that there it was,
I don't know, man. To be clear and transparent, I mean, if you were listening to me in week 8, 9, 10, tough stretch of the season last year, I would have told you I think that he's done. I don't see from Travis what I'm used to, and I think that when this season is over, he's going to walk away, and then the playoffs happen.
Mm-hmm.
Goodness gracious.
Well, but like, yes, he was a player. Like, and I think the thing is like he was definitely like he showed some decline, right? But you talk about week 8. Well, we could use week 8 arbitrarily. He had 58 yards or more in 6 of the first 7 games he played in that season. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and last year's so weird because he had that hyperextension, and he didn't play week 1, right?
Yeah,
against Detroit.
He got hurt right before the game, and so the Chiefs had to try to operate with a unique,
So he misses week 1. He plays his best football over the next like 6 or 7 games, and then it got really ugly until he took that week off.
Yeah.
And there were times where, we're having debates about how he's being defended. Is he just drawing 2 defenders and saying, well, I don't really have it in the tank to beat a double team, but I've done my job because 2 defenders are paying attention to me. And he didn't, to me, it looked like he either didn't have it or didn't want it at times last year. And that is strongly worded. And I am not in any way, shape, or form trying to question Travis Kelce, but whether it's conserving himself for the playoffs or just being really physically and mentally beat up, I don't know. It might even be tougher this year with that early bye, man. They are going to get into a grind down that back stretch of the year. And I'm trying to prepare myself already that hopefully guys like Noah Gray or Jared Wiley or maybe the local kid, Garrett Prince, that they're going to be able to carry some of that load, even though he's like, yeah, ride me till the wheels fall off, Andy. We can help him with that. I'm like, let's help him by parking him in the garage occasionally. Okay. I don't want to see the full Travis Kelce experience in week 12 this year, probably.
I think my thing is just continue to insulate that room, the offense around him, so he doesn't have to feel like he has to carry the burden all the time. That's really just what it is for me. And if they do that,
a lot easier this year, right? That's been the talk.
100%. And it's going to get a lot easier for him this year. And that's going to be curious to see. I think he's going to have a really good bounce back year. I think, that lingering issue to start the season was probably pretty problematic for him a little bit as well. Last question, Jared77. Does Jared Wiley contribute this year? And the over-under, we'll set it at 1.5 touchdowns. Does Jared Wiley contribute this year?
Yeah, I'd have him over on that. He, I think, is a pretty rare weapon in terms of the size. There are enough fun similarities between he and Kelce to get anybody excited. I have heard that the next tackle he breaks will be the first tackle that he has ever broken. But this is a guy that I think is absolutely a red zone weapon, and as a former quarterback has got some good chops in there to be able to understand spacing and how to be quarterback friendly and things of that nature. He seems like, and for the Chiefs to draft a tight end on what that was day 2, right? Or no, it was day 3. It was
day 3. Yeah.
But even though, it's day 3, we're still talking about in the 4th round, they took a tight end. It's the first time that it feels like a real investment instead of let's take this former basketball player as an undrafted guy. So there is something about Jared Wiley that Brett Veach and the coaching staff likes. And boy, he's been on a heater. And the way that they've been able to develop the talent that the Chiefs have invested in and through that coaching staff is really impressive. I expect good things from old Jared Wiley. And yeah, I'll take the over on 1.5 touchdowns.
So will I. I think that's a great role for him is to be in the high red zone situations. Like I think that could be a really good fit for his skill set. I think he's going to have a role. I think he's going to find his way in the end zone a couple of times. I'm really excited to see what it looks like because it seems like there's some buzz around him as a pass catcher, and we'll see how things go when the pads come on. But there's reasons for excitement. That is going to do it for this episode of 21 Questions. Thank you all for your questions. Thank you to my friend Ryan Scott Hall. Appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah, anytime. I love 21 Questions, and when Dirk and I get back on the mics this fall, I hope everybody is there. And obviously, I think we're all going to miss Craig, but excited to see the direction that the lab takes without him this year too.
We got some stuff we're working through right now, so I think we're going to have some fun stuff cooking for the season. We can't wait. So it's gonna be good.
A lot of changes.
But that's it for us. Thank you. We love you. We'll catch you later.